Today, we will be looking at two of the presidents of the United States of the 20th century, one of them being Bill Clinton and the other being Theodore Roosevelt. Clinton was born on August 19, 1946 in Hope, Arkansas. His political party is Democratic. In his autobiography, he stated that he once wanted to dedicate all of his life to music. Clinton once attended Yale Law School for several years. His past political careers included being the governor of Arkansas. When Clinton was elected to presidency in 1993, his main opponent was George H.W. Bush, who was a Republican. The percentage of votes Clinton received was 40.01%. Clinton then served another term, with the main opponent being Bob Dole, who was also a Republican. Clinton won with 49.2%. Clinton left office when he was impeached for perjury and obstruction of justice. Clinton served 8 years as president. Bill Clinton is still highly active with giving speeches and fundraising. He later released his autobiography named My Life. Clinton signed the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1933, which required large employers to allow employees to take unpaid leave for pregnancy or a serious medical condition. This act was signed on February 5, 1993. Its intended purpose was to balance the demands of a workplace with the needs of a family. Clinton wanted to raise the taxes to cap the budget deficit. The plan focused on reducing the deficit rather than on cutting taxes for the middle class, which had been high on his campaign agenda. After announcing this, 2 days later his plan was unveiled in a television address to a joint session of Congress. He then formed the SCHIP, or the State Children's Health Insurance Program. This program was presented in 1997 and was the largest successful health insurance program of his presidency. As a positive impact on the country, it matched funds to states for health insurance to families with children. Bill Clinton was a fairly efficient and productive president. Although he was impeached for an affair he was able to maintain his presidency for almost 2 terms. The percentage of the votes even increased his second term. He reduced illegal immigration from 800,000 people a year to 550,000 people a year. Theodore Roosevelt was elected much before President Clinton. Roosevelt was born on October 27, 1858 in New York City, then later died on January 6, 1919. Roosevelt was a Republican. Roosevelt was a state assemblyman of New York before his presidency. He attended a law school but perceived the law to be irrational and not effective. Roosevelt was the president of the New York City Police Commissioners. Roosevelt was also heavily involved in the military. After leaving the army, Theodore discovered that New York needed a governor. It was then that he learned more about the economic issues. Roosevelt was elected for vice president after the death of Garrett Hobart. When President McKinley was shot by an anarchist and died 8 days later, Vice President Roosevelt was now President Roosevelt. Roosevelt served another term in 1904, with him winning with 56.4% of the votes. His major opponent was Alton B. Parker, who was a Democrat, received 36.6% of the votes. Roosevelt served a total of 8 years in presidency and was succeeded by William Howard Taft as a result of leaving office. Roosevelt created his own political party named Bull Moose. Roosevelt was a creator of many great things: the Pure Foods and Drug Act and the Meat Inspection Act. The Meat Inspection Act was signed in 1906 and ensured that the people who handled the meat were to label correctly and be processed in sanitary conditions. Meats that were not labeled and that did not pass the correct inspections were banned. The Pure Food and Drug Act took effect in 1906. The Pure Food and Drug Act is an act to prevent impure or corrupt foods to be sold. This act was heavily driven by the book Welcome to the Jungle by Upton Sinclair. This act deemed some drugs dangerous, including cannabis, alcohol, morphine, and opium. Roosevelt established the United States Forest Service. This particular service was formed in 1905. This then created 5 national parks. This service also influenced the creation of the Antiquities Act of 1906, which then proclaimed 18 national monuments. President Theodore Roosevelt was an extremely effective president. Although he was very costly, he created many acts that we still use today. The country was most definitely a better place during and after his presidency. This president will always be remembered for the creation of the national parks and the national monuments. All of the sources I have used will be in the description. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you think it helped you.
Wow!